What would you do if your ex-husband stood up at parent-teacher night, pointed right at you in front of the entire room, and loudly declared you're an unfit mother, then laughed while every other parent stared in shock? Picture this. I walked into that classroom excited to hear about my daughter Sophie's amazing progress. Instead, Marcus, my arrogant ex, turned it into his personal stage to tear me down. He mocked my lunches, my job, my whole life. I didn't say a word. I just let him finish. Then I slid a folder across the table. You won't believe what was inside, and how his smug grin vanished in seconds. Before we continue with this video, please like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell for updates. I walked into that classroom feeling proud. Sophie's teacher had emailed glowing updates all week. My 8-year-old was killing it. Top reader, creative projects, perfect attendance. I even wore my favorite emerald green blazer, feeling like I had my life together for once. Marcus showed up late, of course. He strutted in, gave me that same condescending smirk he used during our marriage, and sat directly across from me like we were still on opposing sides of a courtroom. The teacher, Ms. Harper, started positively. Sophie is thriving, she's so engaged, and I actually smiled. I had packed her heart-shaped sandwiches that morning, the ones he always called childish and unprofessional. Funny how the man, who barely showed up for drop-offs, suddenly cared about nutrition. Have you ever felt someone sizing you up, waiting to strike? That's exactly what it was. Then Marcus interrupted Ms. Harper mid-sentence. Sorry, but we need to address the real issue here, Elena's complete inability to parent. The room went dead silent as Marcus leaned forward, voice dripping with fake concern. Let's be honest, he said. You can't even pack a proper lunch. It's always junk or those ridiculous heart shapes, like she's still in preschool. He didn't stop. You're always working, never home. Tiny apartment, unstable schedule. You're a disaster, Elena. Unfit. Sophie deserves better, someone reliable. Like her father. Every word landed like a slap. The parents shifted in their seats. Ms. Harper's mouth opened, but nothing came out. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, the old insecurities he loved to weaponize. Yet something else burned brighter. Calm. Cold, calculated calm. He laughed then, actually laughed. She's a walking example of why kids need their father full-time. The irony hit hard. The man who'd missed half her birthdays, who'd skipped payments, who partied while I handled every fever and school project, calling me unfit? Imagine every wound you've ever hidden ripped open in public. What would you do? I just sat there, smiled, and reached for my folder. I didn't interrupt once. Not a single word. While Marcus ranted, I kept my breathing steady, eyes locked on his. Every insult he hurled felt like ammunition he was happily handing me. The other parents froze. Some looked horrified, others uncomfortable, glancing between us like they'd stumbled into a private war. Ms. Harper tried once. Mr. Reed, perhaps we should... I gave her the tiniest head shake. Let him dig. Let him keep talking. Inside, I replayed the months I'd spent quietly collecting everything. Bank statements, texts, emails where he bragged about needing a break from fatherhood. Receipts for every school supply, every doctor visit, every late-night homework session I handled alone. He thought he was winning. He thought silence meant weakness. Ever held your tongue because you knew the truth would hit 10 times harder when it finally landed? When he finally ran out of steam, still grinning like he'd crushed me, I leaned forward slowly. I slid the folder across the table and said one calm word. Open it. His face drained of color the second he flipped the folder open. Pages stared back at him. Bank statements showing months of missed child support. Screenshots of his own texts. Can't make visitation, too busy. While he posted party photos the same nights. School records proving Sophie's perfect attendance under my care alone. Emails from his lawyer admitting his last custody attempt failed because of his unreliable pattern. Even receipts for every single expense he claimed I neglected. The room felt smaller. Parents leaned in. Ms. Harper's eyes widened. Marcus stammered. This is taken out of context. I cut in, voice steady. No. This is context. The real one. He tried to laugh it off. It came out choked. The man who'd called me a disaster couldn't even look me in the eye anymore. He shoved the folder back like it burned him. Sophie's teacher cleared her throat. Well, that changes the conversation. But what he did next sealed everything and made sure he'd never speak over me again. That night, he called me unfit. But the folder proved exactly who the real disaster was. Marcus never spoke over me again. He left the room red-faced, mumbling excuses, while the other parents whispered, and Miss Harper quietly moved the conversation back to Sophie's strengths. My daughter kept thriving, because the truth had finally been laid out on the table. Sometimes the strongest response isn't screaming back. It's staying silent until you can drop undeniable proof. If you've ever dealt with a toxic ex who tried to tear you down in public, drop your story in the comments. Did you ever get your moment? Like if this gave you chills, subscribe for more real stories like this and hit the bell. See you in the next one.